My name is Claire Mitchell. I'm 37 years old, and I swear to you I didn't see it coming. Not really. Not the divorce papers. Not the house ultimatum. Not the cold way Mark looked at me across the kitchen island the night he said, "You can't afford a lawyer to fight me." It wasn't just the words. It was the way he said them, like he'd been keeping them in a drawer, waiting for the right moment to pull them out and slam them down on the table like a winning card. But maybe I'm lying to myself when I say I didn't see it coming. Maybe there were clues. Maybe I just didn't want to see them. Because we used to be happy. God, I remember when we first met. That sense of falling, of running barefoot downhill, laughing so hard your chest hurts because you can't believe this is happening to you. He was charming in that easy, steady way. Not the loud kind of charming. The quiet kind. The kind that made you feel like you were safe, like the ground beneath you wasn't going to give way. And back then, it wasn't just safety I felt. It was excitement. I remember the way his hand would find the back of my neck when he kissed me, fingers curling there like he owned the moment but not me. Like I was free but wanted to stay. That kind of touch. That kind of warmth. There was a night early on, when we'd gone out for drinks and it started raining while we were walking back to his car. I still remember the way the water clung to my hair, my dress, how he laughed and pulled me into him, kissed me right there on the sidewalk like we were the only two people in the city. That version of us feels like a dream now, because somewhere between then and now something shifted. It wasn't sudden, like a door slamming shut. It was slower, like a window drifting closed while you weren't paying attention. It started in little ways. The goodnight kisses that used to linger, the kind where you felt the press of his lips hours later, became pecks, then became nothing at all some nights. The cuddling that used to melt into laughter or whispers turned into me curling toward him while he scrolled through his phone. The light from the screen painting his face in blue shadows. And there was this night, I can see it so clearly, when I came up behind him while he was washing dishes. I wrapped my arms around his waist like I used to, pressed my cheek against his back, hoping he'd turn around and kiss me or pull me close. He didn't. He just kept washing, like I was some casual presence in the house. Not his wife. I felt stupid standing there, like I'd interrupted something. And maybe that was when the first real crack formed. Not in our marriage, but in me. Because I started noticing other things after that. The way he barely looked at me when I dressed up for dinner. How our conversations became mostly about bills, work schedules, whose turn it was to grab groceries. It was like living with a roommate who used to love you. But I think the exact moment I really knew, something had changed was last spring. We were at a friend's wedding, sitting side by side at one of those round reception tables. Music humming in the background. Couples were slow dancing. The bride and groom were swaying like the world didn't exist beyond them. And Mark, he just sat there, scrolling through his phone, a crease in his forehead, like none of it mattered. I reached for his hand under the table. He gave it to me, but it felt like he was giving change to a stranger. That was the moment, when his hand lay in mine like something lifeless, and I realized the man I fell in love with, the man who once kissed me in the rain, wasn't reaching back anymore. Mark was a paramedic, the kind who thrived in chaos. Sirens, blood, midnight emergencies, that was his world. And I used to admire that about him, how calm he stayed when the world was on fire. But maybe that was the problem. Somewhere along the way, he started bringing that same calm home, the kind that felt like distance when what I wanted was connection. One night, about a month before the divorce bomb dropped, he came home after a 14-hour shift. I was in the kitchen, reheating the chicken casserole I'd made hours ago. I'd been waiting, wanting to eat with him, to have even a sliver of normal. He came in, looking exhausted, kissed the top of my head in that automatic way, the kind that feels more like muscle memory than affection. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey," he said back, already reaching for a plate. I wanted to tell him about my day, the argument with my boss, how I'd fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom by myself, the way I kept thinking about us at that wedding and wondering if we were already over without saying the words. But then he came up behind me while I was at the stove, wrapped his arms around my waist, and pressed his mouth against my neck. To anyone else, it might have looked sweet. To me, it felt off. I stood there holding the spatula, my body stiff while he kissed me like that made everything okay. "Mark," I said, my voice too tight. I'm cooking. He pulled back slightly, frowned. What? I can't kiss my wife. That's not what I mean. But of course that's how he heard it. He thought I was rejecting him. I wasn't. God, I wasn't. I wanted him to ask about my day. To sit down, look at me like I mattered. To talk, to see me. But instead, he kissed me again. Longer this time, like proving a point. And all I could think was, he doesn't get it. Because Mark was always physical. Holding hands in public, a hand on my knee while we drove, arms around me in bed even when I couldn't sleep. It used to make me feel cherished. Now it made me feel trapped. Like he was reaching for my body because he didn't know how to reach my heart anymore. I remember another night, one of those ordinary evenings that suddenly become a memory you can't shake. We were in the living room, me folding laundry, him flipping through channels. He patted the couch next to him. Come here, he said. I did. He pulled me against him, his arm tight around my shoulders. His hand started wandering the way it used to when we were first dating. But it felt like he was skipping steps. Like he thought this touching, kissing more was the bridge to closeness, when what I needed was everything before that. I needed him to ask about the book I was reading, or why I'd been quiet all evening, or why sometimes I lay awake at night wondering if this was how marriages ended. Not with fights, but with silence and routine. Instead, he leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head at the last second, and his lips landed on my cheek. That hurt look on his face, like I'd slapped him, still makes my stomach twist. Claire, he said, his voice sharp now. What's going on with you? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because how do you explain to someone that you feel lonely with them right there? That their touch feels like a stranger's when it used to feel like home? So I just shrugged. I'm tired. He pulled back, jaw tight, and turned up the TV. And that was how it always went. Him trying to love me with his hands, me wishing he'd love me with his words first, both of us missing each other completely. It happened on a Wednesday night. Not a weekend, not a holiday, not a big moment that should have mattered. Just a Wednesday, the kind of day that passes without ceremony. I'd been working late, staring at spreadsheets until my head ached. My eyes dry from the office lights. By the time I got home, I needed peace. Maybe a warm meal, maybe Mark asking if I was okay. Something soft. Instead, I walked into the living room to find him on the couch, TV blaring, his boots still on, jacket draped over the armrest. The coffee table was a mess. Fast food wrappers, mail piled up, his phone buzzing with some group text he was half smiling at. He looked up, grinned like nothing was wrong. Hey babe. That was it. 2 words. I don't even know why that broke me. Maybe because it was so casual. Like I hadn't been carrying this invisible weight for months. Waiting for him to notice. Hi, I said flatly, setting my bag down. He muted the TV. You okay? I laughed. Not the good kind of laugh, the brittle kind, the one that sounds like something snapping. Am I okay? I repeated, and suddenly my throat was tight, my eyes stinging. Do you even care enough to know the answer to that? Mark blinked, confused, like I'd started speaking another language. What are you talking about? I dropped onto the armchair across from him, shaking my head because I didn't even know where to start. We don't talk anymore, Mark. Not really. We don't laugh, I don't even feel like you see me. His eyebrows knit together. I kiss you, I hold you. Exactly. My voice rose, sharp and shaking. You touch me all the time, but you don't talk to me. You don't ask me how I'm feeling, or what's going on in my head, or why I'm so damn lonely even when I'm sitting right next to you. He leaned back like I'd shoved him. Lonely? Claire, I'm here every night I can be. I work my ass off. I come home, and all you see is what I'm not doing. The tears came hot and fast then because I hated the way he made it sound like I was ungrateful. Like I was the problem. I don't want your hours, Mark, I said, my voice cracking. I want you. The you who used to look at me like you were actually happy I was there. The you who listened. The you who kissed me like it meant something. He stared at me, jaw tight, silent. And maybe if he'd said something, anything, we could have turned it around. But he didn't. He just sat there, rubbing his temples like I was a migraine he couldn't shake. So I kept going, the words spilling out now, jagged and desperate. Do you know what it feels like to be married to someone who doesn't even notice when you cry in the shower? Who doesn't notice that you stopped laughing at his jokes months ago? Who doesn't notice that you feel like a ghost in your own house? His face hardened then. So what? I'm a terrible husband now? Because I'm tired? Because I'm not some perfect romantic fantasy every second of the day? No, I whispered, shaking my head, tears dripping off my chin. Because you stopped trying. The room went so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Mark stood, paced once, then turned back to me with his hands on his hips. I don't even know what you want from me anymore, Claire. And that was the worst part, because I realized he really didn't know. He didn't know that all I wanted was for him to sit beside me and ask how my day was.